Amidst your room, it is dark, as the restful night goes undisturbed, laying in silence. But before long, a flood of light emerging from the corner fills the open space, and having been awoken, your eyes draw towards the screen's eerie glow. A clip you shared unassumingly has spread far outside your circle across all corners of the web, and from your newly flooded feed, one message stands out above the rest. An online licensing company, multiple, wanting to license your video, putting forth promises and benefits, all of which make the idea of signing more appealing. Above all, they emphasize not wanting to tie you or your multitude of work down. It's just this one thing. Think a bakery that sells several goods has a large vendor approach looking to mass sell one good instead of buying the whole lot. In compensating you for their good, they mass spread this good while everything else you've built is still completely within your control. And although it is nice, it's a deal beyond the promise of money. Rather, it's an opportunity with high promises that, to you, seemingly came by chance, luck. And not wanting to see such a chance be wasted, your decision to sign becomes clear. So as your hypothetical pen finishes its skate along the dotted line, that effectively only leaves one question to linger. What have you gotten yourself into? For context, Jukin Media is one of the many larger names within this online licensing scape. Founded by John Skogmo in 2009 after having moved to Hollywood in pursuit of a career in media. He finds himself working for a clip show and is tasked with sorting through VHSs they receive in the mail. This sifting and sorting process to find good material proved tedious, inspiring John to change things up upon discovering YouTube. Before long, he's surpassing his coworkers by using this newly found website as a means of gathering viral clips for the show. It's this very framework that inspires how Jukin Media operates today, where instead of just taking a bunch of clips and compiling it, it looks to focus on the person to see how far each clip can be taken. An idea in industry so new, it's exciting. With this, you can't be certain in the long term what this is going to offer you, but what you do know is that there really isn't much time to waste. As your agreement slowly takes effect, you watch as your video takes on a new life far more global than what you had ever seen before. And as it gets passed from hand to hand, those promises that you were settled on earlier begin to bring you more and more into the spotlight. Features within articles, blogs, and video series get yourself out there, but a star like you is going much farther than the small screen. You're thinking wider. You're thinking TV screens, you're thinking interviews, you're thinking segment features and commercials and movies maybe? And of course, you could end your journey here, returning to your room with a cool experience to look back on, continuing to live the status quo. You could do that right now. But why? If people are wanting more, then why not be a part of the next phenomenon? If your mind went towards merchandise or movie theaters, that's cute, but that's some pussy shit. You need to get yourself on that. Jukin's venture with Night Media saw exploration into the crypto space through Views NFT, a venture so wildly popular, it just barely passes my Twitter following. For instance, even a decade after its recording, Davidson, preceding the dentistry because I love avoiding copyright, sold the video for 3.3 Ethereum last year. At that time, that would have been worth around $11,500. Today, that 3.3 Ethereum is worth absolutely nothing, but if he hits me up, I'll give him $50 for it. NFTs really speak my language. I fucking love Hexagon. If your licensing venture brought you this far, then congratulations. You're here with figures such as Tori, aka Burning Hair Girl, so determined to make it to Hollywood that she styled her hair to look just like the forest there. Or like Jared Frank, best known for having his cranium get drive-by stomped by a passing train conductor. James actually raised $30,000 from his viral pursuit, allowing him to pay his student loans, unfortunately leaving no room for skeletal reformation surgery. He has now happily made a career being the Apple logo. This would be a good place to pause. If the basing here seems a little fast, that shouldn't be a surprise. The ability to seize that initial spark before it dwindles, it's that whole rapid succession that brings so much attention in so little time. Just as it's the reason that other licensors like Collab Incorporated reported paying out over $100 million towards clientele. It's this rapidness of character after character that keeps people in desire for user-generated content and fuels the very idea of virality. It's a cultural fast lane, and if you're not equipped for it, maybe you need to rethink the path that you're currently treading on. Because while your eyes initially drew themselves to the glowing promise this road evoked, your focus begins to stray, averting itself towards the dim and vast outskirts seen below, bringing you the realization that the success of those within this industry might be coming at the cost of others. This is a step away from the licensing side and before you now is just the internet. As you've known it, as you continue to know it, it thrives off of itself, what one person makes being shifted into something else along a train until it becomes something entirely new. The way in which pre-existing work is used to make something new exists along a spectrum. To one end, derivative works describe works of imitation that crux off the original, something like a translation. And on the other end, parody, which builds off the original material as an element, but in its whole composition is something new entirely. This would all be considered transformative in its own way. But along the spectrum, it becomes tricky to decide where in this line you can pinpoint down and say that this is transformative enough to be fair use. And it's between the licensing and the non-licensing world, along this very idea, that tension has built. Between the corporation and the individual, there's no agreeing where along this line is fair use, which is where our familiar circle of licensors in their own ways have built rifts between the individual and the corporation. Enter Doing Your Mom Guy on Jukin Media, a combatant striking between the two, an independent creator against the licensor, after 40 videos saw takedowns at the hands of Jukin. The assessment of whether Equals 3 videos were actually fair use ran off of 4 factors: how transformative the use, the nature of the copyrighted work, how much used, and the market harm. Twists and turns ensue. I am sure you're on the end of your seat. The court ends up ruling in Equals 3's favor, and the two parties reach a settlement as opposed to moving the case even further. And with that, the conflict between creators and licensors ceased, never to reoccur again. Jukin would experience another clash with the channel MXR, which would occur when Jukin struck 2 other videos down that used Jukin clips. However, what made this worth mentioning was the very friendly and sensible settlement of $1,500 that Jukin requested in order to lift the strike per video. That is way more than any license would have cost, threatening to terminate their channel with a 3rd strike if they didn't comply. With that, widespread callouts of extortion would help quash the situation, but it wouldn't help quash the discourse around Jukin itself. It seems that people either love Jukin or they hate Jukin, and you can see how polarizing both of these ends are. 2 videos posted 7 months apart by 2 completely different people that both share the same title, My Experience with Jukin Media. One an experience very praiseworthy, and the other more disdainful.
Talk to you about my experience with Jukin Media. My experience with Jukin Media. They put out like really awesome, they get like this really cool videos and they put them up. They promise you like higher returns of up to 70% more than you're getting with just YouTube alone. I have been very pleased in my dealings with them. They have treated me well. I'm not even seeing half, not even close to half of what I saw whenever I was on my own from YouTube. I'm very happy. I'm very, very pleased with dealing with them, and they've been awesome to work with. They'll have an agent usually contact you, and they are up to beat. They respond every single time within like a couple minutes, and that's before you sign. After you sign, I heard you'll be lucky to hear from them once every 2 weeks. They have treated me well. I'm pretty happy with them. They have you in a contract, and there's not too much you can do about it. If you must sign with somebody and you absolutely are just dead set on it, know what you're getting yourself into. Jukin Media, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Equals 3 and MXR are only 2 cases, and these are only 2 opinions. That is, of a potential hundreds or even thousands, tens of thousands even. But the reason you're hearing these is because the scope of them became insanely large, fueled by the popularity of those behind them. The ones that you don't hear, the ones that you'll never hear, are the ones that lack that reach to speak up. And amongst these cases that in many are equally as worthy of outrage, you will probably hear none of them. At least not until fair use can become fairly enforced. Do you remember me saying something earlier? Something like urgency is the name of the game? Probably not. I meant that as a nod to viral culture overall. But it applies to something else as well. Natural disasters. Fucking hell. The transition thing needs work. Natural disasters seem so distant when you're not there, but are ever more engageable when you can see the perspective from the ground floor. This is what's created the ambulance chasing practice, where business firms are found contacting victims of tragedy soon after they occur. Albeit very modified to avoid copyright, your screen is currently showing the grounds of Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada, amidst the 2016 wildfire. Michelle Chamberlain, a McMurray local, shares his dashcam footage from the event. And for those fleeting 3 minutes, you are given a lens into the devastation that occurred. To the frame's left, family homes at a standstill. And the right, the twisting flares that inch ever closer. only separated by a single road that divides the two halves. Any vision beyond that is completely enveloped by smoke, the only thing peering through being the flashing embers that emerge from the vast forest, painting the scale of how much this fire threatens beyond what is seen within video form. 88,000 people evacuated and 2,400 buildings destroyed, the uploader himself, Chamberlain, losing his home to the very flames captured within the dash cam. The early morning following, Chamber receives a call from ViralHog, another one of these companies, that offers a 60-40 cut in Chamberlain's favor to license the video. He accepts. Chamberlain donates his portion to Canadian Red Cross, an organization that helped offer relief to those impacted by this event. And the portion that ViralHog saw? Who knows? Bro, I don't have a good segue for that. I do not have a good segue. It's time to play Is That Morally Questionable? I have no idea. Thanks for playing. Despite how I may have pitched this, let me frame it differently. Not to be some moral grandstanding person, I just made a quip about California forest fires literally a few minutes ago. I have zero ground to stand on. Is there trouble in conducting business with people facing tragedy? Is it exploitive? After all, a company doesn't stop being a company because something bad happened. There's still employees to pay and all that. And if the user was not offered in the first place, is that not similar from withholding aid that could assist them to completely then strip them of the option? But if the issue is asking too soon, then that's not an issue with the company. That's an issue with viral videos altogether and the urgency of them. The sooner you post it from the tragedy, the more relevant it'll be and the more money it'll accumulate. That's not tragedy, that's business. And while you sit with that high school level philosophy homework, I'm gonna get back on track. You can imagine the bit of mess that we've trudged through already has left a lot of people hesitant about signing within an industry. But there still exists a desire for a support system that the absence of which makes posting individually scary for some. Between these two ends, we see a chasm form, one that's wide and vast with how different both sides have become. But this is where a caveat of channels and pages work in building a middle ground. Working with these pages won't present you with the same flashy offers as you were getting with licensing companies, but it does present to you something that wasn't really on the table before. Community. Rows of people that are able to discuss and praise your video. The feeling's nice, but it's not really individual to you, is it? At least not the same way having an agent through a licensor was, and that essentially leaves you with three options. Do you enter this space with company, with community, or do you enter it alone? There's been a lot of hand-holding, so this one's completely in your control. To choose the path that best accompanies you. I'll just be over here watching. Bye.